let's jump in. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chris Stock. I'm CEO of SalesMD, and we're focused on helping medical practices convert leads into patients. And today we're talking with Aaron Burton, CEO at Sciton. Aaron has been with Sciton nearly 9 years, the last 2 years as the COO before becoming CEO in February of this year. So congratulations on that promotion, Aaron.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Sciton, for those who don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, is a leading medical device company providing advanced laser and light sources to medical professionals, I should say. In addition, as if that's not enough to keep you busy, Aaron, he's on the board of directors at the Aesthetic Business Institute. So it's a real privilege and honor to have you on my show as such, and the opportunity to interview you, Aaron. Welcome.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it, man.
Let's just jump straight in because I know you've got a ton of meetings and stuff happening at the moment, so I don't want to sort of just spend too much time, but I'm really sort of keen to share with our audience a little bit about the personal side of this journey, but also then what Sciton is doing to help its customers, and then what advice that you have to practices as we start to look towards the recovery. So kicking that off, what have the last few weeks been like for you as you get your head around and grapple with this situation?
Good question, Chris. It has certainly been a roller coaster. At the beginning of March, the very beginning of March, we actually had our annual meeting in Silicon Valley. We had not everybody from around the world. There were certainly hotspots that we didn't require certain countries to come. So our Asia markets, Japan didn't come, but most all of our employees were in Silicon Valley at the very beginning of March. And I think on the 16th is when Santa Clara County, which is where our headquarters are, is when they put the ruling and kind of the stay at home or shelter in place order. So it's almost amazing, but the difference between 2 weeks when we were all there celebrating, an awesome 2019 to now it's been 5 or 6 weeks and we've all been at home. So it has been a crazy roller coaster ride, I'll tell you that.
From your own point of view, how have you sort of dealt with those ups and downs?
Yeah, it's we do a ton of Zoom calls and Zoom meetings, which I certainly think has helped. You're trying to get information, and you traditionally, you make decisions based on having information, having data, talking to a lot of sources that are knowledgeable and know. And then we're kind of in an environment now where, you're making game day decisions all the time and nothing is normal. So it's almost a guess. And that certainly makes it harder. You go from a strategic thinking to very tactical thinking. And, it certainly made things more challenging and more complicated. But, so far, I think our leadership team has done a really good job and has really helped us push through it.
Excellent. And what's the biggest challenge that you have as a leader right now?
I think the biggest challenge probably is just making the decisions, I guess, because you're working in a fog of everything. But, we have an advantage, and I don't know if we have an advantage, but I think one thing at Sciton, we have a really, really strong culture that's been helpful for us. And I think you can make decisions. So when you're looking at you have a question or a decision you have to make, and it's a really tough one, I think you can turn back to your values and your mission and kind of look at it and go, okay, here's the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. And, our leaders, we've talked a lot about the two easiest things that we could do right now would be one, fire all of our people, which we think is terrible, but that's the easy, when you're watching your cash flow, decline every week. The easy thing to do would be just to go lay off everybody or furlough everybody, or go out and take a bunch of, bad types of loans or bring on a bunch of bad debt, which is in the history of our company, we've never had debt. So we've really tried to focus on one, how do we protect our people, which has always been our culture. And two, how do we not bring on a lot of debt, in the middle of this kind of crisis we're going through.
I've seen it a couple of times in some of the dealings I've had in terms of knee-jerk reactions. And it's funny, I was talking to an investor a couple of weeks ago, and it was interesting. He sort of said, I'm not looking at now, I'm looking at, what do you see in 2 years' time, 5 years' time? What's the long-term strategy? And this is crazy, dreadful, and all of those words to describe the situation. But actually, if you look 5 years ahead, where will we be? So you mentioned ethos, and actually it's been one of the things that's always struck me as an outsider looking at Sciton, in terms of sort of dealing with you at sort of shows in the past, sort of dealing with your team, but also what I see on social media. And there's a real strong team emphasis that comes across, and in terms of who you are as individuals, who you are as a business. And I've really sort of liked that in terms of, it's one of the reasons I've always wanted to sort of, how do I find a way of working with you guys? Because I just love that sort of family that Sciton has. So what are you doing to sort of maintain that during these times? And also, what are you doing to strengthen that position?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question, Chris. I mean, that, we're proud of our culture. And I appreciate you saying that, and that you've seen those things out there. I mean, we definitely, I don't know if I want to say that we advertise it, but we definitely brag about it. We've got a great, reputation in the industry. I think even among people in the industry that, we build really, really good products. We're founded by two physicists, and, they were more scientists before they were business people. And our culture has always been about our people. And the reason that we have these great products is because we have really, really good people. So I think when you're faced with a crisis like we are now, I do think, you sit back and you look at our values and our mission. And our mission statement, it starts off with saying at Sciton, our mission is to improve people's lives. And as it keeps going, it talks about, number one, improving our people's lives, and improving our clients and our customers' lives, and then, improving the lives of patients who are getting our treatments. But it starts with number one, which is our people. So when we're faced with these tough decisions and we're, sitting in a crisis, I got to tell you, our culture and our values help us a lot, because we're always looking back at how do we help our people? How do we not send them to an unemployment line? And, I have tons of sympathy, because our industry has been hit pretty darn hard by this. I think just about everybody, I can maybe think of one, maybe two in our industry that haven't had any type of furloughs or layoffs. And I sympathize with the leaders who had to make those decisions, because I don't think they wanted to do that. But, I understand why they had to do it. And, we just go back to our mission, and, we say we've really got to avoid that. I mean, and nobody can predict the future. I can't predict the future. You can't. So it's hard to know how quick things return. But I can tell you every day our team's making a decision on how do we protect our people and not have to do a furlough.
Yeah.
And, we've been fortunate. We haven't furloughed a single employee. We don't have any plans to do it. And all of our strategies and plans are all built on kind of our mission statement and our culture, which is, how do we maintain that? And how do we keep our people?
Yeah, I think it's, as you say, things change, and they're changing so rapidly. So you start with where you are and work from there. I was actually I think it was about 2001 when there was the dotcom bubble burst. I was working for Intel Corporation, and as a leadership team, it was, okay, we're not going to let people go. We're going to work with everybody to, and it was salary was on hold for a couple of years. But that actually, and for me as well, they invested in my MBA. And, so right at the worst time is when they sort of put their hand in their pocket and paid for me to do my MBA. And you admire that, but it's huge, huge risks in so many ways, because you don't know what's coming. You don't know how long this is going to go on for. So.
Yeah, we do struggle with that, but I don't know that we are. I don't know that maybe we're overly optimistic, but we believe that we can. The things you're talking about, focusing on education and spending money and doing things with our own team, will make us better.
Yeah,
we recover here, and we definitely believe in that.
Yeah, well, I'm a training provider, so I certainly believe in that. Yeah. But and I always remember when I went into this business, my dad said, why are you setting up a training company? It's the first thing to go in a recession, and it does cut back. But the smart companies invest through it, I think, and if they can, and I respect that there's tough decisions, and making those at the right time is really important.
Right. Agreed.
So moving a little bit into your customers, again, I know Sciton provides great support, to your customers already. But what specifically are you doing to support practices during this time?
Good question. We've seen a massive change, but I would say that the volume of the calls we're getting and emails are still really, really high. It went from, again, at the beginning of March and in Q1, we were focused on sales and sales orders, and sales volume was at record highs. And it's totally changed to where we don't even really want to sell right now. We've really changed where we're looking, in our sales and marketing teams of, I don't want to say pivoted because we were doing it before, but I would say that we've really gone from, we're not even trying to sell right now. We don't even think it's appropriate. There will be a time when, and we will know when that time is right, that the sales force starts doing that again. But we've really focused on the digital and kind of the virtual platforms out there. And I'm sure you've seen it from a lot of companies, but I got to say our marketing crew and our sales crew, I think right now are best in the industry. When we're doing 4 or 5 webinars, Facebook Live, Instagram Live. We have a training center here in Dallas where we have a clinical person doing hands-on actually treatments where they're actually with the system by themselves, but they're doing a virtual training with somebody else who's at their office by themselves. Trying to come up with creative ways that we can really support practices, because they have to prepare for when they're going to open up, and they have to. There's certainly things they should be doing. They're not sitting around, kind of like you and I aren't sitting around. They're not doing it either. So we've really tried to listen to our customers. We have a strategic advisory board that gives us advice, and they, from day one, were saying, hey, you need to double down on your education. And we've done that. So it's not a sales platform. We're not pitching anybody to buy anything. It's not that kind of a platform. It's purely to our owners, on existing products and how they can be better and how they can, best practices and things like that. And we've had a lot of stuff on the ACTS. The Congress has passed the payroll protection program. We really tried to help with that because we think doctors should be going after that program and really try to protect their people too. So it's been all over the board, from product stuff to laser physics to economics and financial stuff. It's really been, our team's done a really good job.
That's fantastic. So if one of your customers isn't taking advantage of some of that stuff, presumably they just reach out to their rep and sort of make it known they would like to sort of jump on board some of that education.
Yeah. I would be surprised if they're not seeing it. They could reach out to their rep, but they're probably getting so many, between social media and just all the digital platforms out there. And then between our, I'm sure our e-blasts and our emails we're sending to them, they're getting a ton of information from us. But yeah, they could reach out to their local rep. They could get on our website. Everything that we've done is archived. So if they missed anything, it's all out there. There's definitely some good information, but yeah, they could definitely reach out to us.
Hopefully when this starts to lift, I like the word, the fog, when that starts to lift and we start thinking about recovery, what are your longer term plans to support your customers through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've thought of a couple of things. I think unfortunately, you're going to see a lot of movement in staff. Some practice, we've talked to a lot of our practices, and a lot of them have kept their people, but a lot of them haven't. A lot of them have furloughed their staff, and I don't think that staff necessarily comes back. So we've really tried to prepare for, there's a Sciton system sitting there, and somebody needs to be trained and proficient on how to use it. And the doctor's going to want to open their doors back up, and if their staff comes back, perfect. But if not, we need to be ready for it. So, preparing for when does that day come, and every state's going to be a little bit different. Some are going to be sooner, some are still maybe weeks and months away. But being ready for that. And then I guess there's a couple other pieces, really doubling down on our brands and how do we help customers or our clients get more patients? How do we double down on our Halo brand and our Broadband Light brand? How do we help the phones ring and, more emails come in, and, what are platforms we can do? So we're really trying to focus on things like that. So one, we can have them ready. And then when the doors do open, how do we make their phones ring more?
Perfect. And that sort of, kind of makes me think, because you are the CEO, but you're also an advisor, probably a consultant, of friends, sort of a confidant to these business owners, the surgeons, your customers. Mm-hmm. What advice are you giving to them at the moment?
That's a good question. I would say, you do become friends with your clients. I mean, so we talk and we text, and the one thing I've said is, if you haven't gone after this this government loan, I mean, it is really a zero risk. It's a payroll protection. So if you can keep your staff, if you want to keep your staff, I would say, go after this loan so it can help you. It's an 8-week loan. It guarantees their payroll for 8 weeks. And if you keep your staff, and if you keep your payroll at kind of historical payroll numbers, you get 100% of it forgiven. I mean, it also helps with your rent. It helps with your utilities. So I would say if they haven't gone and applied for that, they need to call their bank today and talk to their bank about getting it. And, I know it's all kind of news and I can't predict, but, the first round ran out of money on Thursday, but the second round of money, I think I heard 310 billion, should be passed tomorrow. And I bet you the banks start giving it out sometime tomorrow. So I would say, one, they should be doing that. And two, the purpose of that is they really need to protect their people. The practices that I think are really going to perform here and do the best are the ones that when doors open back up, whenever that is, that their staff is ready, because there will be a surge of people who want these treatments. I don't think, the aesthetic market is this. I think it will change. I don't think they're going to want surgical procedures. As soon as the doors open, I think maybe it's lower cost procedures, but people want to look good. People want healthy skin. That's not going to stop. And if you still need to provide that. So I think the practices that can protect their people and keep their people on the longest, or the longer they keep them, will be the ones that have an advantage when the doors open. So definitely go after the loan and do everything you can to protect your people right now. That's really important.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of those. Again, from the lens I look through, from my point of view, it's about the people. And one of the things I've spoken to a few practices about is almost, if we think about the journey that I know the journey I've been on, and those people have been through the same. So what also can we do to support them in terms of getting their head back in the game, getting them on that journey? Because as you say, it's going to change. There's going to be fear still, is there a second wave coming, by meeting you for this procedure that you want, but what does the impact on me? And so how do we help them get their head in the game, in the right space?
Right. Yeah. Agreed.
What specifically should practices be doing right now? And I think you probably alluded to some of that in the advice, but getting down to sort of the practice level, what should they be doing right now?
I definitely think this would be a time when they're definitely sharpening their skills and educating their office and their staff. And but I think you also have to get ready for when the doors do open, because I don't think it looks exactly the same. I think there's going to be different. We're talking about what are our own company standard operating procedures for a rep in the field, because I don't think it's going to be the same. I don't think a rep just walks in and just knocks on a door and is talking to a physician the same way. And I don't think a patient's going to come into the lobby of a practice. And I've heard of practices where they ripped out all the carpet and they've changed their flooring out. I've heard of practices where they're working on no-touch devices, so they're not giving you a credit card, or virtual consultations, so that the fewer people in the office, so you don't actually come to the office for a consultation. Rather, you're doing that at home, and then when it's time to come in, so you have less people in the lobby and people waiting in lobbies. So I think you've really got to get ready for some states will open up sooner than others, but you have to be ready for whenever it is. So, and that stuff's not easy, because we're trying to do it too. How do we have 240 employees and partners, and we need to make sure that they're prepared. And when the time is right, that they have all the resources to be out there again. And I think all of our practices need to be doing that too. So I would think they'd be pretty busy right now, believe it or not.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that sort of leads me into sort of the consultation process. And again, we're seeing a lot more telemedicine, but how do you see the consultation process changing as we sort of come out of this?
Yeah, I was reading an article from Tom Seary at Real Self, I think it was a week or two back, and he was talking about how many people were doing telemedicine and how many people were willing to do it now in a survey he did versus the previous survey he had done on the same topic or same questions. And obviously people are more accepting now, and I think that's something that will probably stick. I think a lot of things may go back to normal over time, and maybe a year or two, it'll be interesting to see what went back to normal. But I would be surprised if a lot of this stuff doesn't stick. And I think that's one of them. Was I don't think to do a consultation, a non-surgical, a lot of these procedures, I don't think you need somebody in the office. And again, I'm not a physician, but these are things I'm hearing from our doctors and our physicians out there. And that's one of the things I think will stick, that there will be a lot more of that happening. It won't be a short-term thing. I think that's a long-term thing.
One of my clients in the UK actually was, even before this, was starting to just a lot more of that, seeing photos, doing sort of the pre-consult to a consult. And so that was, I think, sort of going that way with the technology. And I think this has just accelerated it.
Yeah. And I think the patients, that's kind of the world we're in now. We do so many meetings virtually now that people have really grown to accept it. So maybe a month or 2 months ago, they thought, I don't really, I'd rather go in, but now they're almost accepting it. So it's going to be easier for a physician or a provider to just recommend it. It's not like doing FaceTime with somebody. I think it's just more widely accepted as a business norm now.
Yeah. And it's funny, there's a client of mine, and the only way I can communicate with him is WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And you drop him an email, no response. Yeah. You leave him a voicemail, nothing. WhatsApp, I get instant reply. It's just like, okay, so that's the way we're going to do it.
That's becoming more common too. Yeah. So
again, just conscious of time, as we start to just wrap up this interview, I want to sort of come back to you and sort of advice from a sort of a leader's perspective. And you don't get to be the CEO by chance, and especially of a company the size of Sciton. And I'm sure you've had great mentors and coaches over the years, but what's the one lesson you've learned or piece of advice you've been given that really stands out for you in terms of you as a leader?
Yeah, you're probably gonna laugh at this, Chris, because I post on this a lot, but I think in times like right now, when things are a little hectic and things are different and it's a little chaotic, I've really talked about, and I've taught this and seen this from our current CEO, or I guess I should say our former CEO. Now he's our chairman and co-owner Jim Hobart. It's really about gratitude, and I think that's one of the tools that is in leadership in general that I think leaders struggle with a lot. And it's probably really something people are struggling with right now, which is having gratitude for things going on around you, even though you're in this fog or in this storm, or you're making game day decisions that, in our industry out there, and not our industry, in every industry, impacts people's lives. And, some companies have hundreds of people like us, some have thousands and millions. And, the decisions you're making are impacting a lot of people. And, prior to this, we always talked about gratitude, and we talked with our leaderships about, having gratitude, showing gratitude, having a culture of gratitude, telling people thank you, and, proximity with people and staying close with people, and how important that was. And, I would say in the kind of the times that crazy times that we're in, is now definitely a time that you would want to double down and really think about, having gratitude for your people, and don't forget about telling them thank you and reaching out to them and connecting with them on a regular basis. And, they're at home, working by themselves and not in an office where, you could pat them on the back and tell them something. You need to make sure you pick up the phone now, or set up a Zoom meeting and tell people thank you. And, if you wake up every morning and you're thinking about, what am I grateful for, or who at the company am I grateful for? I just think it's because you're going to get bombarded with crazy stuff. As soon as you start checking email and you start getting on phone calls, you're going to get thrown some curveball, and it can really throw you off. So I would just say the thing I've learned from my mentors, and including our current, chairman, again, Jim Hobart, was you need to have gratitude for your people, and it goes a long way.
I love that, actually. And I think that the point you're making in terms of, everything that's going on around you. So I woke up, was it yesterday or the day before, and I'm on a visa, and suddenly I hear about green cards sort of being, temporarily, what does that mean? Temporarily on hold. And it's like, what does that mean? And suddenly you sort of, panic, and then you just stop and you just look out the window, and I'm fortunate where I live, and just what's going to happen is going to happen, and, countries have to make the right decisions for their country. We have to make the right decisions for us as individuals, and, just be alive, have that gratitude for what you have and where you are and what's happening, and things will sort themselves out in whatever way they're meant to sort themselves out.
Agreed.
Love it. So, final question then, before we just wrap up, any final thoughts, or what are your final thoughts, reflections that you have, that we haven't really discussed, that you might like to just to sort of put out there?
Yeah, I guess someone asked me a question the other day and says, what do I miss the most right now? And I really sat back and I thought about that. And I travel a ton. I live in Dallas, but we're based in Palo Alto, so I'm going back and forth. And I thought I miss a lot of things, but I got to tell you, I really appreciate the time home with the family, and, this is something I just really appreciate right now. So as much as I look forward to getting back out to California and, getting back on the flights and, seeing everybody out there, I've got to tell you, I appreciate and I'm grateful that, for the times right now, I get to be home and I'm not traveling, and I'm really trying to enjoy it as much as I can. And, we can't get out of the house much, but at least, the college kids here and all the kids are here, and, it's kind of cool to have the family here, and just, appreciating it while I've got it, knowing that at some point here pretty quick, I'm sure at some point, I'll be back on that plane heading out to California again. So
yeah, I think absolutely right. I think it's going to, as quick as we come into this, I think there's a point where suddenly the new normal arrives.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I agree. Fantastic. So thank you again for agreeing to this interview and being interviewed. I've taken quite a few things from it, so hopefully whoever watches equally sort of takes some good points and thoughts and things from this.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, Chris. Thanks for having me, man.
No, brilliant. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.